What's up guys, Jack here, and for my most recent video touring my old first network that I did at my old house, I made a bit of an opening sequence thing. It looked like this. Warning, this is basically how to not design a network. You have been warned. What's up guys, Jack here with MTS. But I figured we could just take a look at the After Effects project file and I could show you just kind of what I did, because it's really simple, but it kind of, I don't know, I feel like it's tasteful, but I don't know. I could be wrong. So let's just jump into After Effects here. Starting things off, we have a black solid. This black solid is just basically to act as my cross dissolve in, or my dip from black. And then we have my voiceover itself. I kept the voiceover itself at the top because I was timing all of the text appearing with the waveforms. Warning, this is basically how to not design a network. You have been warned. Yeah, so everything happens on time based off of the waveforms down here. And so we start off with my red solid, which is just the background. I'm filling it because it was originally just red, which looked bad. So I lightened it up a little bit. And then we have all of our text coming in. The first warning is just really a big scale effect happening. I'm also messing with the opacity just a little bit, but the opacity just goes from 0 to 100 in like 2 frames worth of timing. So really it's the scale that's doing all the animation for this. And then I have motion blur applied on most of my layers here. Really anything that's moving that's not a mask. And so yeah, we just have all the text kind of animating, doing its thing. This one, this is an animation text reveal. So I'm actually using the animate properties to reveal the text. And this is one of those, if I'm doing more fade-ins with like big blocks of text, I will use this method more often. But when I'm doing things that are just a few words that I need to just kind of pop onto the screen, this is very time consuming and inefficient. So I stopped doing this pretty quickly. And what I did for the rest of them was basically how to this. I would type everything out, make a duplicate of it, and either crop it or mask it. So I cropped for these guys, but I forgot how much I hate cropping things in After Effects because, yeah, it's not really good for that. And then started over here. Over here, I really started just messing with the masks. So all of this stuff is just a mask. I took all of the words, design a network, and they just have a mask over each of the words, and that's how they're appearing. And then the layers are just timed. Design a network, not, again, is just kind of a massive scale up. And at the same time as this is happening, we have this background layer thing that's doing these shapes. So these shapes are just a video file, which originally looked like this. And I took that, threw on some tints and a toner to just kind of flatten the colors out to something that's more neutral and not, bright purple. And then on top of that, one of the things that you might not notice is that there is a lot of grain happening in this. So to break up the solid layers, because everything's just solids, I wanted to give it some texture. So I threw some film grain over the whole thing. And without it, it's one of those things that on YouTube, you might not notice just because of all the compression that it's going to be doing. But it really does kind of add a lot to the project in terms of making things not look flat. Because, well, this is a 2D animation with no shadows or anything, so it is flat, but it feels more, I don't know, I want to say structured, but I don't know what the word is for that. So yeah, it's pretty basic. There's not a whole lot happening. This shape expanding out to the blue, well, So I wanted to basically just have a mask expand across a blue solid. But to expand a mask over a blue solid, that would allow me to feather it, but I would have to set up the mask, get it perfectly centered in the composition, blah, 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 scale it up, animate that. So what I did instead was, this is just a shape layer that expands, and it's acting as a mask for this royal blue solid. So as this expands, it reveals the blue underneath it. And then the reason this is a pre-composition is because I'm using RSMB. So I'm using Real Smart Motion Blur, and that's what's doing the blurring of this whole thing expanding. Because if I were to be using After Effects' built-in motion blur on an expanding mask like this, or something acting like an expanding mask, it looks terrible. It looks similar to this, but mostly all of this darkness happens on the inside of the shape. So it looks very weird. So I'm using Real Smart Motion Blur to do the blurring of that. And then this video just kind of happened to slow down here in terms of this colorful background video here. So I didn't even have to animate that to go slower or do anything. That's just how the file was built out. And yeah, it's really just the same technique used a number of times. I got my stack of layers here for the you have been warned, or for you have been, and then warned is just scaling up. And this is using After Effects' built-in motion blur. And then to do the whip or the whoosh transition, Final Cut, that's one of those things that I will say Final Cut is really good at. And that is, if you use the push transition or the whatever the everything moves transition in Final Cut, it adds motion blur to that. And that's really nice. Premiere does not automatically add motion blur to that. So if I was doing just a basic push inside of Premiere, it would be a push with no blur, which looks terrible. So what I ended up doing was using RSMB inside of Premiere, and let's see what that looks like. Okay, so inside of Premiere, using Dynamic Link, I just brought in the After Effects project here, and oh boy, we're getting stuttery. But so coming along, it then goes into a nested sequence here with the ending of this video here and the beginning of this. And so that nested sequence has this moving out, and it has me coming in. And then on this nested sequence, we apply Real Smart Motion Blur. And that's what allows me to have the whoosh transition with motion blur. So it's a workaround that I have to do inside of Premiere. I want to get some sort of plugin that'll allow me to do this without having to create nested sequences and do all this stuff. Just give me a transition that, you know, automatically has motion blur. That would be really nice, but hey, this is what I have to do for now. So hope you guys enjoyed this quick little video, just kind of talking about how I made a thing. But anyway, guys, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.